The Death Star has cleared the planet. The Death Star has cleared the planet. I see you. All right, so recently I was at an antique store in Tupelo, Mississippi, and I found a Coke bottle that was bottled in my mother's hometown. I'm not going to show you the bottom of the bottle because that happens to be a password of mine, but you'll just have to take my word for it. I thought, you know what? I bet I can find that cheaper online. I was unable to. So I told myself that if I ever went back near that place, I would see if they still had it. And the other day, business took me there, and I thought, well, it's just a couple of streets over, I'll go look. I looked upstairs, misremembering it as a second story cellar, and it was not there. I looked downstairs and found a place selling pop bottles, and it wasn't there. And I thought, well, it's just been sold. I should have gotten it when I saw it. That's the rule of antiques. Buy it when you see it. Now, then I went a little further towards the back of the ground floor, and I did locate the bottle. It was still there. It was still the same price. I said, yes. Now it's become a quest at this point. You have to buy it. But I thought I'm going to check that seller's stall near the front that also had some vintage Star Wars figures. And I found a couple that I felt had potential for projects. Number one, I needed a Bespin Luke for a project, and he looked pretty good. Actually, some of his details look better than one of the Lukes I already have, so there's a possibility that I'm going to keep him or keep his body and put the head of my other one on this body and use the more worn paint of my childhood toy for the custom. It's just an idea. Then I spotted this guy and I put him back because he's broken, right? And then the thought kind of ran through my head, you know, that would have been the perfect figure to use for a Bosk that I customized last year. I put Luke X-Wing arms and legs on a Bosk torso with a later helmet and made the Cantina Dude character. I said, man, why didn't I have this guy? He'd have been perfect. I wouldn't have felt bad about, popping his limbs out and customizing it. And this one has very faded limbs compared to the plastic of the torso. And I thought, wait a minute. The yield from that custom last year was 4 perfectly good Bosk limbs that I could put on this perfectly good torso. And in effect, via the transitive law, it would be as if this $2 Bosk was the figure that I had used for that custom. So I decided to get him. You would think the story would end right there. But the cashier, not a person I had seen in there before, he goes, oh, this reminds me. I have a box here behind the counter of some Star Wars figures that I was going to sell in my stall. Now, at first glance, they weren't in the greatest of condition. Look at this sun-faded torso on Luke. But actually, there wasn't a lot of paint wear to them, and the limbs were all really tight. Now, apparently, someone else had tried to put a price tag around Luke at some point, so he's got a bit of thread choking him. I don't know how easy that will be to remove. But I was like, okay, that's interesting looking. But the things that excited me were a stormtrooper, nice and white, with good tight limbs. This one even included a blaster. That was the only blaster in the box, unfortunately. This guy, equally good. This guy, not so much, but I actually had a custom that I wanted to paint a stormtrooper, so I thought, I might get him. A couple of Jawas were in the box. I only got one of them. I always felt there were 2 styles of eye paint on Jawas. It could either be very round circles like this, or it could be little tiny pinpricks, and I didn't like the pinpricks. I like the round circles. So I left the pinprick one in the box. He also had a very beat-up cape, and I decided to get this guy here. I think I have one extra Jawa blaster at home, so I'll have to see about that. Continuing on with A New Hope, from the second wave of figures, a really good condition X-Wing pilot. I mean, yeah, there is some paint loss on the back, but practically every one of these that I've ever seen has some paint loss somewhere. And I think his helmet logos are better than the ones I have from childhood. So, got that guy. There was another Luke Bespin in the box. And his boot paint was arguably better than that guy, although now that I really look at it, I see there was an underspray problem here. I won't call it overspray. Not enough paint was applied to that boot. But I thought, well, this one's now probably better condition than the one that I'm already buying from the other stall that he'd already rung me up for. So I thought maybe, depending on price, I might get some of these. I'd seen these at a show in Birmingham just last week, and they were about $10 each. This one's in better condition than any of the ones I saw in that box. The limbs are so rigid and tight, and the paint is so... I mean, did you hear the pop when I moved his legs? The paint is so good, except for the back of that one boot right there. So I thought, yeah, maybe this one, if the prices are good. A Yoda, missing his belt, but otherwise the robe is in great condition. He's got the orange snake, and his paint is good on his hands and his toes, unlike one of mine at home that has a belt. So there'll be a little swapperoo for this guy. So I'm looking through, and I told the guy, I said, man, if you... He was saying he was going to bag them soon and look at prices and put them up for sale in his stall. And I said, man, I wish these were for sale today because there's a few in here I'd like to get. And he goes, well, how about X number of dollars a piece, which was cheaper than what I just paid for that guy. And I'm like, okay, I'll take these. I swipe the credit card. I go. I'm driving a block or two away, and something just didn't add up in my brain. And I was sitting there checking the receipt at a stop sign, and I thought, no, I think I got overcharged. I think he charged me $1 higher per figure than the price he quoted. So I turn around and I go back. I almost got sideswiped by a woman that was backing out of a little cookie shop really fast, backing out of the parking lot all the way into my lane. Without looking where she was going, and I had to go into the oncoming lane to swerve, around her and everything. So I go back, the guy's still standing there, and I said, I thought you told me this price, but the receipt says this price. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. Well, I could fix it, to give you the refund, or is there something else in the box you wanted? So I actually had thought of a couple. I was kicking myself for not getting them, and I said, I might get this one or this one. The logic being that their capes were in fantastic condition, even if the figures themselves, like, look, somebody cut off some of his little prongs, and all the silver paint has been rubbed off his head. I thought maybe it had never been painted because it's even missing from the teeth, but down inside the tubes you can see a little bit of silver, I noticed this morning. But the cape was in good condition, and I've got some guys at home that lack capes. Ben Kenobi, also, good cape, broken saber, garrote around the neck, just like Luke. Oh, and Luke I only decided to buy because a while back I broke the point off of a vintage saber, and his saber was intact. And I had looked up vintage sabers. I saw an auction for one of those go for almost what I paid for every one of these. So yeah, Luke was just for the saber. Ben and the sand trooper or sand person, I'm sitting there holding them, and the guy goes, "Tell you what, I want to make you happy. Just take both of those guys for the original price, no additional money." So I got all these figures for the original price, and it came to less than what I'd seen one of those go for on eBay a while back. So very fortunate day, I felt. I've got some custom fodders here. I've got some parts to cherry out things in my collection to make them a little bit better condition. And then I've got, like I say, people that I can paint, and etc., etc., etc. So I told my friend Chris about my haul, and he called me a very bad word. All right. Thanks for watching.